So, in the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision, MSNBC and all of the liberal pundits began to have a collective panic attack. And it's been absolutely pure gold to see these quote unquote experts within the media start to cry and be concerned. And once again, spew out their poison to make sure that Americans lose their ability to think critically for themselves. And there's a world heavyweight champion, somebody who we all know, somebody who made their bread and butter off of the Russiagate conspiracy. You know her, you love her. Her name is Rachel Maddow. And she begins to start, well, projecting her fears about who Donald Trump could be, what he is about, and more importantly, how he's going to be a de facto dictator because of this ruling by the Supreme Court. So let's give it up for Rachel. Rachel, you're a reasonable person. Take it away.
I want to stay on the Department of Justice thing because obviously, and there's reason why in those in the hypothetical offered by a federal judge in the appeals court arguments about SEAL Team 6, and then talked about in SCOTUS, and then in the decision, why that has had such significance, right? But that is a hypothetical. It hasn't happened in American history. What has happened in American history is a president, Richard Nixon, using the Justice Department, the IRS, all kinds of faculty. I mean, he had the IRS audit his political enemies. He attempted to use the Justice Department to go after his political enemies. That's not a hypothetical. That's just American history. And coming out of that, and you're someone who's been a sort of historian of this period for a lot of reasons, there was a conclusion that Watergate was wrong, and that what Nixon did to the federal government was wrong. And one of the readings of Roberts today is Watergate was not prosecutable, maybe, and what Nixon did as president, he probably was immune for, and too bad that John Roberts wasn't around in 1974.
Yes, and they're using this to project the fears that Donald Trump is going to be this great evil dictator. Well, listen, first of all, liberals. Listen, liberals. What you guys have done was continuously kick a hornet's nest. And every time you try to come after Donald Trump, it is always blown up in your face. Hell, Wile E. Coyote has a better track record than all of you liberals. And that's not saying much because we all know that Wile E. Coyote gets his ass owned by the Roadrunner all the time, every time. But liberals, the difference between you and Wile E. Coyote is that he's a fictional character. It's supposed to be funny when he always loses. However, you guys, it is pathetic and sad because you are also a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. Liberals, all this time going after Trump, you don't think he's not going to come back after you? I mean, that's how the whole thing works. All this impeachment, indictments, and everything else, it's been one big waste of time. And here we're going to witness Rachel Maddow project fear because they want to make Trump into Hitler 2.0, even though we've had presidents who ordered the death warrants of the Native American people. We've had presidents preside over this country when we had slavery. We've had presidents commit and order crimes. Okay, these are not. Listen, there's no such thing as a squeaky clean president, except for that one dude who died in 30 days. Maybe he's the only one, a saint among devils.
I mean, the executive, sort of the imperial executive idea, pioneered by Republican Justice Department officials like Ed Meese and brought to its sort of governing apex under Dick Cheney and the kinds of people who worked in Republican politics to approve the sorts of things that happened, particularly after 9/11 under the George W. Bush White House. Those have now been brought by bringing a bunch of people who were part of that cultural milieu in the legal world, by bringing them into a supermajority in the Supreme Court. That has brought us to a place where a president has had his lawyers asked by a justice in open court, are you saying your guy can assassinate someone and he will have immunity for that? The answer was yes, and the court wrote it down.
No. It doesn't matter if things are being taken out of context here, okay? So first of all, we've had presidents also order the hits and assassination of other people. I mean, hell, Barack Obama. I mean, how many times did he order a drone strike? Not to mention, you're worried about opponents and everything else. I mean, we have had presidents have vendettas against their political opponents, not just Richard Nixon. I'm talking about a lot of them. You think it's just all squeaky clean, like all of them didn't have their little fair share of scandals? But yet Trump is somehow the end-all, be-all threat. I have my problems with a second Trump presidency. I don't believe in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But this whole idea of now we got to go after Trump, which is leading many brain-dead liberals to say, we got to go after, Biden's got to go after Trump. Which means what? What exactly?
And that answer is the logical, apex of where those things are. It's the nadir, I suppose, of where those things go over time. But to have that radicalism land when you have a potential next term of Donald Trump on the horizon if he wins in November, where he is saying exactly what he will do with this power, is quite a remarkable thing. You'll notice that nobody in reacting to today's ruling is saying, wow, how scary. What is Joe Biden going to do with this power? Right? Nobody is saying that. Nobody is worried that a president like Joe.
No, I am actually worried about that. Okay? Because under a Democratic administration, you know what I noticed? And this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to put down the video here for a second. I just got to get this off my chest because I've been told by a couple people, well, gee, kid, you are awfully happy. Really, you're more happy than a Trump supporter at seeing these liberals cry. Why is it? Well, it's because I remember 2016 through 2020. All those big talking, self-important activists and organizers who are protesting against Trump, I just remember just always trying to at least interview them, talk to them, the self-importance, the ego, the pride, being big-headed, having the plans and what all that other good stuff. But I remember all those protests, setting up somewhere in downtown Chicago or in front of City Hall, and then protesting in front of Trump Tower all the time. I remember people used to be out there in mass. Hell, I remember the First Women's March, all those pink pussy hats. And where are you bastards now? Where are all of you at? Oh, that's right. All of you went to sleep after Biden got elected into office. All of you were afraid of Trump. Oh, no, he's going to start World War III. The economy is going to crash. Oh, no, what's going to happen to individual liberties? And all of that happened under Biden. But all of you activists, the big talking people who had serious Trump derangement syndrome, you went to sleep as soon as Biden got into office because you all went right back to brunch. Well, I am concerned about the powers that a Democratic administration could get because the thing is, of course, people are going to protest against Trump because the activists and liberal media are going to do everything they can to project him as this evil cartoon villain. But as soon as a Democrat's in office, yawn, time to go to sleep. Even though war crimes are happening, even though corruption's happening, I got to call it how I see it. All this fear about Trump, I want to have that same kind of reaction for Biden or any other politician. But I'm not afraid. Look, I don't care about the ruling. What I do care about is unhinged people like Maddow projecting their fear and paranoia amongst a populace that has lost its ability to think critically, unfortunately.
Joe Biden is going to, abuse this in such a way that is going to bring about a de facto dictatorship. But because that is what Trump is explicitly promising for any next term that he wins in the White House, and this conservative court knows it, and a third of it was appointed by him, they're doing this in the full context, the full knowledge of the radicalism of what they're bringing down upon the country. And the only solution to this, the only way out of this, is to have non-criminals and non-authoritarian-minded would-be dictators win presidential elections.
That's so stupid and boring. We've had presidents do illegal activities. Hell, if you look at the Roosevelts, they used to have that opioid trade, man. What about the Kennedys? No, nobody asked the Kennedy clan what old man Kennedy what used to do on the side, right? Especially during Prohibition. No, because heaven forbid, such an honorable name would be associated with Prohibition and bringing in illegal alcohol into these United States. Goodness gracious, Cretaceous, that would never happen. Huh? It's a good thing we don't have presidents or politicians do criminal action. Maddow, you are not a serious person, but she continues to project her fears. She continues to do so. And it's thinking for me. Way to go, computer. Why are you thinking?
When Donald Trump, running for president in 2016, started leading crowds in that "lock her up" chant, as shocking as it was to most of the country, it was a transgressive thrill to Trump and his followers because they knew it sounded so wrong. It
sounded so wrong, but so right at the same time. So what? You have Biden supporters saying lock him up for Trump. It's one and the same. The fact that you're letting chanting and rants get the better of you, and that you have a show in which you can influence millions of people, and you're telling them to be afraid. When people are afraid, they don't act or think rationally.
They enjoyed that transgressive thrill so much that it became policy. And we know that Trump, in fact, tried to get his Justice Department to bring improper politically motivated prosecutions against people while he was president, and indeed to improperly exclude him from federal investigation in the case that ultimately resulted in state court in his 34 felony convictions in New York. So we know that he is very, very facile with this. This is what he wants to do. This is what he thinks power should be. Who's my Roy Cohn, right? And now the Supreme Court has said without reservation and without limit, yeah, you can do that. We promise you explicitly in the ruling, in the language of the ruling, not even.
So what are you expecting, Maddow? I mean, from this kind of conversation, what I've been seeing on social media, you have so many Biden supporters and liberal Democrats who are panicking. What do you think? Donald Trump's just going to grab a shotgun, put on a Texas cowboy hat, and just walk down Fifth Avenue and start shooting rounds into the people? You think that's what he's going to do? No. Now, that would be funny. And if you got my reference, that was when Homer Simpson dreamt about becoming mayor, and he was just shooting a shotgun as like a cowboy in the middle of the street. But anyways, this just the amount of fear that these Democrats have and these liberals have. Look at her. She knows what she's doing. I kind of feel sorry for the jagoff who's listening to her rant, because he's like, oh God, Trump gets elected, I got 4 more years of this. Maddow, you are the Alex Jones of MSNBC.
Even in a footnote, anything you say to your Justice Department is subject to immunity for you. And that is, it's the rule of law means in this country that the law is not used as an instrument of the ruler. The rule of law is supposed to constrain the ruler. And the Supreme Court just undid that, and it's binding. And it's now the way our country is structured. And the only way out of this, the only fix to this, there's no fix to this that involves impeaching Supreme Court justices. There's no fix to this that involves a new argument or a new case. The only fix to this is to put someone in the White House from here on out who will not abuse the absolute.
Oh, this is like a mythical dream. Sort of like delusional people on dating apps. You know, he's got to be 6 foot. He's got to have 6 figures, and he's got to be longer than 6 inches. That's it. Like, what the hell? Or he's like, hey, bro, you better be good looking, man. Like, okay, so what? You want the president to be this wonderful, kind person, this smiling face individual. Well, guess what? That person doesn't exist. Neither does the Bigfoot, Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, or leprechauns. None of that exists. We live in the real world. People are horribly flawed. And given enough power, people could easily become corrupt. Okay? But Maddow wants to project this idea of we got to put good people in office. What kind of good people? Joe Biden? And before any liberal says, yes, Joe Biden's a good person. No, he's not. This is Joe Biden, who's been against busing and desegregation. Joe Biden, who was the architect of the crime bill. Joe Biden, who gladly prostituted himself to corporations and helped write a lot of neoliberal policies that benefited the banks and corporations. What kind of person are you looking for? Hill Dog Clinton? Bill Clinton? What kind of politician are you looking for? Because the way I see it, everyone currently serving in Washington, D.C. are pure scumbag criminals. All of them. You want a good person who won't abuse power. Well, gee, I want a media that's actually going to inform the American people. Hope in one hand, crap in the other. See which one fills up faster, Maddow. But of course, when you have these people who can't think critically, you have so many presenters getting easily triggered. Like, for example, here, BBC presenter calls for Donald Trump to be assassinated. So BBC presenter David Arnovich has called for the murder of former President Donald Trump on a post on X. He later deleted it, calling it satire. Arnovich, the voice behind the British state broadcaster's Radio 4 program, The Briefing Room, tweeted on Monday, "If I was Biden, I'd hurry up and have Trump murdered on the basis that he is a threat to America's security." Well, Mr. Presenter, you're not supposed to say that. And also, why would you call on Biden to do that? Isn't that what you would be afraid that Trump would do? So you want Biden to act like Trump in order to stop Trump from acting like what? A tyrant? Because it seems very clear to me you have a lot of liberals openly embracing fascism and dictatorship and tyrannical policies. So it's the pot calling the kettle black. And you have a lot of liberal presenters showing themselves for who they are. And this is what I mean about Donald Trump. Donald Trump triggered so many people in the liberal media sphere because secretly, they won't show it in public. They are not good people. They put on a mask pretending to care about social issues, but behind closed doors, between you and me, they're kind of worse than Donald Trump. And no, that's not. I'm not exaggerating here. A lot of these liberals are not good people. They're not serious people, but they're also not good people because they're projecting their fears. They're asking Biden to go after a political opponent. Can you imagine if Fox News said something like that? Can you imagine if, let's say, the roles were reversed? Do you have any idea how many people would be screaming out there in the streets right now because they're so triggered by Trump? But don't worry. Here's the thing. Before anyone says, well, gee, you seem to be embracing Trump. Well, you know what? A lot of you liberals and vote blue no matter who people better start embracing Trump because from 2016 to 2020, he was the biggest job producer for the social justice warrior industrial complex. So many people made their names just being part of the resistance against Trump. The post was accompanied by the hashtag Supreme Court of the United States, indicating that the comment had been triggered by Monday's confirmation from the U.S. Supreme Court that former presidents have absolute immunity from prosecution for their official actions. So Arnovich was forced to delete the post after an online backlash and claimed in a follow-up message that he had been accused of inciting violence by a far-right pile. The presenter insisted his tweet was plainly satire. There's nothing satirical about it. But then also you have unserious people like this. Now, this kid has got to be paid so much money by the federal government because here he is now saying that Trump's campaign manager just threatened him on social media. You know him. You love him. Harry, man. Get your face out of Biden's wazoo.
So Donald Trump's campaign manager just threatened me on social media. I'm not joking. In response to the immunity decision from the Supreme Court this morning, I said on Twitter, according to the Supreme Court, Biden can now send in SEAL Team 6 to take them all out. He could send in the military to take out Trump. He has immunity for official acts now.
Okay. But what I want to know is why are you projecting this stuff? Why? Because again, even if it's for satire, the problem is that you see so many people agreeing with that. Even if it is satire, there's enough triggered people who have Trump derangement syndrome who would say, okay, yeah, do that. Gee, liberals, you're kind of showing your fascism just a little bit. Your hypocrisy is showing just a little bit. Now, no, Donald Trump is no saint either, but it's hilarious to me that liberals, your mask is coming off. And these are the same people that are going to be crawling hands and knees, or either that pounding on your door, begging you to support the Democrats.
And I guess the Trump campaign didn't like that very much because Trump's campaign manager, Chris LaCivita, responded to me by saying, expect a visit. Now, what do you think that means? Is the Trump campaign threatening me with a visit? Are they saying they're going to send their guys to my house to try to keep me quiet so I won't advocate against their candidate? Is that what he's implying?
No. Expect a visit from, I don't know, police or Secret Service. I don't know. Your TikTok videos are cringe.
Here, I'm just using my First Amendment rights to tell them how awful their candidate is. But of course, the Trump campaign doesn't believe in all that. Trump said he wants to be a dictator on day one. This really is the perfect summary of the Trump campaign. Their candidate is so terrible that they have to resort to tactics like this. But here's my message to Chris LaCivita and the entire Trump campaign. No, I won't be quiet. The tens of millions of
Ah, God. This is a guy and so many other liberals who are panicking right now because they are afraid of something that will never happen. But yet, now that the ruling has come in favor for Donald Trump, what's the things? What do the liberals have left to really go after him now? Because as I said, these legal problems that Donald Trump is facing right now, should he walk away? Should he be able to reestablish himself? Liberals, you're going to be on the defense and you're going to be on your own. Who do you have? You have no one except old man senile Biden, whom the whole world agrees is completely out of pocket, completely confused, and you're stuck with him. But enjoy their meltdown. Enjoy their fear because they're afraid. They are panicking because they have nothing left to do now. Their lies have been called out. And what have I said about lies? You could tell a really good lie, but like all lies, they fall apart. They're not built properly. And now that everything has fallen on the ground, Maddow and all these other vote blue, no matter who sycophants, are looking around telling you guys, please, please ignore the collapsed building. We built it properly, but look at that guy right there. He's a real bad guy. I just can't wait until we get closer and closer to November. If we think that this is gold right now, we have yet to hit the main mine that has huge chunks of gold in there of liberal tears and liberal meltdowns. It's going to be pure gold, folks. Trust me.